This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Your weekly, proudly progressive show, your perpetuation of progressive talk entitlement. It has been a humongous week. There's been more news than we know what to do with, and we certainly won't be able to fit it all in a 3-hour show, but we're going to do our best.
Let's try. Let's talk really fast the entire time. We'll just do a double time. Double time show. We still wouldn't get it all in.
I don't think we could get it all in.
Yeah.
But we've got 4 great guests coming up in the show to help us try and get through as much of this news as possible. Dana Veriano Camisi. Goodness, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, of Breakthrough. They are a human rights group using humor and satire to reach new audiences, and they're the ones responsible for that really cool Deport the Statue satire video that's been going around lately. David Schoen of the ACLU of Alabama. He will be discussing the Voting Rights Act decision from the Supreme Court with us. Zach Ford, LGBT editor of Think Progress. Of course, celebrating the Prop 8 and DOMA decisions, and Nathan White, who is behind a huge rally going on nationwide called Restore the Fourth. They're having a great event in D.C., and he's going to be with us to tell you all about it.
And the fourth means 2 things there.
It does. It means 2 things.
4th of July and, of course, the 4th Amendment.
Right. And we'll tell you also about another event that's going on at We Act Radio, another 4th Amendment anti-government surveillance event that we hope everybody will come out and show some support for. So just so much going on, we don't know what to do with. And in all of those big stories, a lot of great stuff may have fallen through the cracks. So as usual, we want to tell you about the stories you may have missed or that we think need a little bit more attention. Starting off with a quick congratulations for Democratic Representative Edward Markey. He is the new senator in Massachusetts to fill John Kerry's vacated seat when John Kerry became Secretary of State. He defeated political Republican newcomer Gabriel Gomez by about 9 points. As usual, with a special election, voter turnout was only about 10%.
And despite the fact that Gabriel Gomez got the support of a progressive group, a so-called progressive group.
So-called progressive in air quotes, yes.
Yeah, Karl Rove's group called Progressives.
Yeah, we told you about that last week. But apparently Massachusetts voters did not fall for that, and Edward Markey was successful. So congratulations to our new U.S. Senator.
He ran a darn good campaign.
He did, and he just had a great quote about being positive and, bringing some cheer and determination to the U.S. Senate, which I think it could be useful there.
Yeah. You think?
Some positive energy in the Senate? Yes, I do. But congratulations to Edward Markey. Congratulations to the voters of Massachusetts. And I'm just happy that wasn't another Scott Brown situation.
No kidding.
Yes.
Now we know why Scott Brown probably didn't run for it either.
Yes.
Wait, I got no chance,
The
man.
senator fold.
I'm just going to go over to Fox News again.
Exactly. So, in some frustrating news, this story really frustrated me. I don't know how many people have heard about it, but a healthcare activist in Pennsylvania was arrested this week for exercising his First Amendment right. This is a big deal, and it's not getting enough attention because it's been such a humongous news week. But a gentleman by the name of A.J. Marin, he was with a group of protesters in Pennsylvania who are pushing lawmakers to expand Medicaid under Obamacare. Many in the Pennsylvania state legislature are considering this proposal and are hopeful it will pass. But Governor Tom Corbett says essentially he will veto the measure unless significant changes are made to the program. I'm guessing that those significant changes fall in line with Rick Scott's desired significant changes to privatize the system, but I do not know that for sure. Anyhow, A.J. Marin was arrested for writing the statement, "Governor Corbett has health insurance, we should too," in sidewalk chalk outside of the governor's mansion. This is really frustrating. He was arrested for supposedly writing a derogatory remark about the governor on the sidewalk. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, but is there anything illegal about making a derogatory comment about the governor?
So long as it's not a direct assault or a threat. If it's a political statement, it's of the highest protected form of speech.
Exactly.
And he could have said something much more derogatory, and it would have been protected. It should have been under the First Amendment as such. But it seems that here that chalk is not speech and money is.
Yes.
Think about that.
And it's sidewalk chalk.
If he had thousands of dollars to buy an ad on television to say that exact same thing, I can guarantee you he would not be arrested.
Right.
Think about it.
This really frustrates me because there's been many of us who've been concerned about the loss of privacy and the corporate takeover of our government, et cetera. And this seems to be just something we would see in a dictatorship.
Sure. And as he gets arrested, maybe they'll swab his cheek, get his DNA, think
Convict
about that.
him of another crime.
Sure. Go through his emails, get a warrant, go through all his friends' emails. Think about how far, when you put all these things together, we talk about them all on their own, put them all together.
Yeah.
And that's why we need Restore the Fourth.
Absolutely. And this isn't, I'm not paraphrasing. I'm not exaggerating or making this arrest seem more ridiculous than it is. There's a copy of the actual citation up on the Think Progress blog, and you can read, the police wrote here, the above did engage in an action that's served no legislative purpose in that he did write derogatory remark about the governor on the sidewalk.
I would say it served a legislative purpose.
I would too.
And why does every bit of speech on that sidewalk need to be serving a legislative purpose?
Exactly.
If that were the case, then half of the people in Congress should be thrown out because they serve no legislative purpose.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Let's break
They're
out the
all
handcuffs.
derogatory statements towards us.
Exactly. But, your right to protest, your right to speak out against your government is literally what the forefathers intended when writing the Constitution, because they knew that without the ability to challenge our government, as some great people we're going to talk to today
your
are doing,
government for their grievances. It's right in that First Amendment.
Is it possible that maybe Governor Corbett didn't like that somebody was pointing him out for the hypocrisy?
Yeah.
Just saying.
John Adams Corbett. Alien Sedition Act. Back.
Yes. Health insurance that Corbett has, by the way, that's paid for by the taxpayers. So I have a feeling this will be an interesting case to watch. If they better drop this case.
They're going to drop it. But then there's the situation where he can make an argument if he can get the attorney to do it. I don't know financial situation or whether there's an attorney out there to do it, to say my civil rights were violated.
You're darn right they were.
It's not just you're going to drop the charge. I'm going to bring a charge against you.
Right.
For the violation of my civil rights.
I have a feeling.
To free speech and to petition my government.
I have a feeling there may be a few great lawyers. We're going to speak to one who does this kind of work around this country who would probably help him out with that. I'm just going to go out on a limb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
maybe he should, instead of doing it in chalk, he should just write it in an email. They'll see it anyways.
I mean, they could have washed it away with water.
Right.
We've all played with sidewalk chalk.
But there is a question, how they didn't charge him with vandalism.
No.
So then there would have been how permanent is permanent, and there would have been another argument to be had, and probably a little bit of a stronger one, at least for the state. I wouldn't have bought it.
Absolutely not.
But if he had spray painted it, I could see that there would be an issue.
Then they could have charged him with vandalism.
Right. But just a derogatory remark?
Yes.
It seems like a ridiculous law in and of itself.
It absolutely does. I would like to see the actual law on the books and see how that hasn't been.
I think I'll look it up right now.
Yeah. So if that wasn't frustrating enough, I know the president came out and gave his big climate speech and, talked about how we're going to move towards more natural gas, more nuclear, because those have been so great and successful in our country so far. As if to purposely time this story with how dangerous these processes are, a new report from Reuters says that the storage tanks around Hanford Nuclear Reservation, they're leaking. Yes. And this is a nuclear reservation that is really close to the Columbia River and other major water sources for the Pacific Northwest. Apparently, there are 177 tanks there that hold 56 million gallons of radioactive waste. Now, there has been a huge cleanup project underway. This is considered one of the most contaminated nuclear sites in our entire nation. And they are watching this, trying to see if this nuclear material is now in the groundwater. There are disputes where, of course, the agency and the reservation are saying that this is not a problem, where environmentalist groups are saying that at least one-third of these 177 tanks are leaking, and that this is a huge potential danger to residents and to the environment in this area. This site constantly comes up in the news as problem after problem, and it's one that we really need to be watching more closely, especially as the president is saying, yay, nuclear, we should develop more nuclear. If we didn't learn anything from various accidents throughout history, Chernobyl and Fukushima, I don't know what it's going to take. We're obviously not getting it in the natural gas argument. We're not seeing the dangers there. So I'm really glad that the president is talking about reining in the carbon pollution, but it's time to look at the disaster that nuclear energy leaves us and the dangers of natural gas. Those are not clean energy sources, and that I think you're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. You're taking one so-called dirty energy source and replacing it with another. So just something to watch. Pretty scary stuff. Could affect a lot of people if that nuclear material makes its way into the Columbia River. So, and I don't think that they're going to jump out and let everybody know. Back to some positive news and related to carbon and pollution. The FTC is going to investigate oil companies for rigging the market. They are going to be investigating, joining with a European Union investigation that is looking into the practices of 3 fossil fuel companies for setting prices, colluding with each other and setting prices in the market. This is a big deal beyond just the price of oil and the price of gas at the pump, because the price of oil drives up almost every other commodity in our country and around the world. How much it costs to transport something, how much it costs to transport food around the nation are greatly affected by the price of oil. So it's nice to see that the FTC, this seems like a pattern with the SEC and the FTC. They're kind of going after big business lately, and I'm really, really happy to see that. So we'll have to watch this one. I think an investigation that is in union with European officials and U.S. officials will have even more power. I hope so. I mean, oil companies are huge. We know that. They have extreme power throughout the world. But taking on the EU and the United States still may cause them a little bit of a problem.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Fighting City Hall is bad enough. Try that one.
Exactly.
By the way, I looked up the Pennsylvania law.
Yeah.
Now, there's no, obviously, statute for writing a derogatory comment. He was arrested under disorderly conduct.
Yes.
Statute section 5503. I've read through it. What he did doesn't even fall under the statute.
Interesting.
A person is guilty of disorderly conduct if, with the intent to cause public inconvenience, not just inconvenience to the governor, annoyance or alarm, they engage in fighting or threatening, or violent or tumultuous behavior. Obviously, writing on chalk on a sidewalk is not that. Makes unreasonable noise. I don't know if it screeched maybe a little bit when like a chalkboard. No. Uses obscene language or makes an obscene gesture. There was nothing obscene in there whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
Creates a hazardous or physically offensive condition. So I don't know if someone could slip on the chalk, but that's it. So it doesn't even fall under that. They made it up.
Yeah, I mean, if their stretch of saying using sidewalk chalk is the crime of disorderly conduct, there are a bunch of 4-year-olds.
Felons.
Exactly. There are a bunch of 4-year-olds around the country that are serious felons.
Hopscotch felons.
Yes, my niece is just a troublemaker because she loves herself some sidewalk chalk.
There you go.
Yes. So, I don't know that we'll have time to get to all of our news stories. Big surprise there. Of course, wanted to mention that the Senate has officially gone on vacation for the first part of July.
Sorry, this is not a repeat. We actually are live.
We are live.
That's kind of like John McCain being on a Sunday morning show. The Senate is on vacation.
The Senate is on vacation for the first part of July, and they will also be on vacation, just in case that wasn't frustrating enough, for the entire month of August.
And they always say, well, it's an election. Well, this is not an election year. Last year it's an election year. We have to go meet with our constituents. What is it this year? Are they all going to the Jersey Shore to hang out with Chris Christie? I don't.
Since when did meeting with their constituents actually cause them to do anything anyway?
Right.
You know, they have consistently, as a whole, voted against what their constituents want.
They have to meet with their campaign donors.
Check. So they went on vacation, and they were unable to reach an agreement on student loan rates before they do. Student loan interest rates are, as of right now, 3.4%, but just Monday they will increase. They will double to 6.8%, and the Senate just went on vacation. So I know they did pass the immigration bill. We're going to get into that in the next couple segments. But this is a bill that would have taken them 5 minutes. You know,
all it says is we're gonna punt for a year.
Exactly.
We're gonna, because we can't get our stuff together. That should not affect students throughout the nation.
Right.
But instead, they said, "Nah, we're going home."
Yep. Exactly. Break out the Mai Tais. We're coming home.
Right.
So we're going to get into that. Talk about what we think of the Senate immigration bill and speak with Dana Veriano-Camisi of Breakthrough about their amazing, hilarious new video about deporting the Statue of Liberty. If you haven't seen that, go check it out during a break. You can check it out at breakthrough.tv is their website. So we will be back with more. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, and we'll be right back.
And I just want to say, I think that was the most brilliant performance ever in the history of everything.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Yo, word on the street is they got an NSA mixtape bike ride going down July 4th, 5 o'clock at WEAC Radio, 1918 Martin Luther King Avenue in Southeast Anacostia, Washington, D.C. But you ain't heard this from me, man. They got us on the run, man. Whistleblowers on the run. They already got my man Michael Hastings. They blew his car up. They got him. Eric Snowden's on the run. They got WikiLeaks stuck up in the Ecuador embassy. Can't go nowhere. I mean, man, Joe, you know what time it is, man. They got your emails. They got your phones. They got everything, man. So don't fax this. Don't send this out. Just word of mouth, man. Keep it on the low. But you ain't heard it from me, man. July 4th, 5 o'clock. At WEAC Radio, 1918, Martin Luther King Avenue, Southeast, Anacostia, Washington, D.C., man. Massive bike ride, man. We're going to blow the whistle on you, motherfucker. Man, you do something, man. But you ain't heard from me, man. Yo, I got to go, man. Do something.
My name is Joe Thompson. I'm 29 years old and have a career that I love as a systems analyst. Career. It still sounds cool to say that word. I never could have gotten on this path without a college degree. And if the college me were here, he'd tell you.
I never would have gotten to college without Big Brothers Big Sisters. I could have ended up anywhere, on the streets even. But college? Joe Thompson? Not likely. My big brother helped me out. He taught me I could do anything, at a time when a lot of people were saying just the opposite.
And to a 7-year-old, that means a lot. My big brother's name is Phil. And Phil is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a systems analyst.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child. And that can last a lifetime. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Brad Friedman, your friendly citizen investigative blogger, journalist, troublemaker, muckraker, and all-around swell fellow from bradblog.com. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. 1 hour of troublemaking and muckraking ripped from the pages of bradblog.com and sometimes from the dark recesses of my mind. We'll have investigative interviews with newsmakers, we'll call out the liars, frauds, and phonies, and we'll even give kudos to the good guys if we can find any. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. We'll report on politics, elections, election reform, mainstream corporate media failure, media reform, global warming denialism, and everything before, during, and after. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday, now a full hour, 3 to 4 p.m., right here on Pacifica Radio's KPFK and coast to coast and around the globe on kpfk.org.
Hank Action News is proud to be sponsored by Healthcare for America Now. HCAN is a national coalition of more than 1,000 groups in 50 states, representing 30 million people. HCAN works to promote, defend, implement, and improve the Affordable Care Act at both the state and federal levels. They also try to protect Medicare and Medicaid, increase corporate accountability, and confront forces that seek to take away critical services. HCAN believes in creating jobs, not cutting programs people depend on. HCAN runs comprehensive issue campaigns that mobilize people at the grassroots and define the public debate. HCAN is fighting to protect, implement, and improve the new health care law through national and state-based legislative and regulatory campaigns built on grassroots action, public education, communications, policy analysis, and groundbreaking research. HCAN has become a respected voice and national leader on health care while continuing to focus on aggressive field activity. Support HCAN, Healthcare for America Now.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Thank you wherever you're checking us out. We Act Radio, 1480 AM in D.C., or SoFloRadio.com, or, hey, maybe checking out the podcast. We appreciate you wherever you are listening. So one of the huge stories this week was that the Senate actually passed a comprehensive immigration reform bill.
Did I get stuck there?
It gets stuck a little bit there. I want to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that I am happy we are finally having this discussion. I am happy that there may eventually somehow be a real path to citizenship for people who are living undocumented in this nation. This is a huge problem. It splits up families. It hurts people who, the dreamers. There is such a need to reform our immigration system. It is severely broken. I am just very concerned that this proposal that just came out of the Senate is already so far to the right that anything that we could get as a final result will not be a real fix. This is just the Senate's piece. The House may not bring it up. We're going to get into that a little later.
No, John Boehner said he will not bring up the Senate bill for a vote in the House.
Right.
They said they're starting from scratch. They're going to do it their own, as is Paul Ryan's words, special way.
Exactly.
It's special.
Exactly. But this bill, this is essentially a militarization of our southern border. 20,000 additional border agents, 700 more miles of border fences, electronic...
Tens of billions of dollars.
Yeah, almost $40 billion.
To Texas and Arizona.
Electronic surveillance of drones and thermal imaging cameras. I mean, this is turning our southern border into a modern version of the Berlin Wall. With all the bells and whistles that technology has brought the security industry, the defense industry, since the Berlin Wall was built. Do we have a clip of John McCain saying just that very thing? We may. Well, you let me know. Okay. The bill passed 68 to 32. 14 Republicans joined Democrats, and
I think that, first of all, the legislation concerning beefed up border security removes any validity to the argument that border security is not sufficient. I mean, this is not only sufficient, it is well over sufficient. We'll be the most militarized border since the fall of the Berlin Wall. So that's why I think this amendment was very important. Second of all,
he's cheering that.
I don't know. Because I've been told about this clip a lot and I hadn't heard it yet. I think he was saying, pipe down, you've got enough. You've got so much militarization that... Now, I remember when he was running for office, build a dang fence. But to me, I don't know. But based on that right there, he's like, you've got so much militarization. It's like the Berlin Wall. So stop saying you need more.
Well,
vote for the darn bill.
We'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. Compared to many members of the Senate and the House, he is not, as scary and as strange as it sounds, he is not the worst. He is not the most anti-immigration.
And that's just because he hasn't moved to the center. The party's just moved to the right.
Yeah, exactly. The Democrats gave up a lot in this bill, I think, to get Republican support. They got 14 votes. So in exchange for basically a dozen Republicans to support the legislation, they spent almost $40 billion and turned our southern border into essentially a war zone.
Yeah, just imagine what 219 Republicans in the House are going to cost. That's what worries me.
Well, and it worries me that this is where we're starting the debate. These two bills, for people who don't understand the process, theoretically, the House will come up with their bill and the two will meet in conference and agree on what's kept in the bill. We're debating between the right and the far right, or the far right and the way crazy out there far right, because House Republicans don't even want to include a path to immigration, a path to citizenship.
No, they say just use the normal system. So in other words, it just becomes a big corporate wall building, not free, but low cost out of country labor force, that it is not immigration reform.
Right.
So we have to make sure this is still actually immigration reform, not, just fences and work, and slave wages.
Right. We want immigration, as you said, Shane, not exploitation.
Right. Well, the thing is that Democrats actually want to fix it.
Right.
They want to make sure that people who are here can come out of the shadows, can become part of the American fabric. Conservatives and Republicans want to extort as much as they possibly can for the Democrats to get that.
Right. And I'm curious on if some of these pieces are included as quote unquote poison pill provisions to make the bill so bad that Democrats can't vote for it, so that then Republicans can say, see, they hate the Latinos.
Right.
Because, as we all know, the Republicans did not get pretty much any of the Latino vote in 2012.
But so long as immigration reform activists are for this, and so long as the unions and workers groups are in favor of it, I can still support it. But I've got to watch for the cues, and I need to see what's in it for myself, because we're just looking at a 1,200-page bill or 1,100-page bill that will never become law.
Right, as it stands right now.
So it's kind of one of those things where we can to beat up on this bill right now is kind of pointless, because we can look at some of the parts we don't like and say we need to fix that before the final votes. We'll see what the House does, read the bill, and then, it's a thing we're going to have to reassess constantly.
Exactly. And my point isn't that we should just shut down the whole process. My point is that we need to stay involved. That we need to be
strong.
Right. We need to be calling our senators, calling our representatives, and say, this is nonsense. We want real reform. And what Dana Veriano Camisi and Breakthrough, who we're going to speak to next, are doing is helping to shape that process. And I think what they're doing is a great way to go about it. We're going to speak with her next. You're listening to Talking Left, and we'll be back with more with Dana, so stick around.
Hey, it's Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide, and this is Talking Left.
Thank God for Congress, right? When things get out of balance in America, we can always count on our legislative stalwarts to recalibrate the scales of justice. Take greed, for example. The Wall Street barons who wrecked our real economy with their greed-fueled casino games are playing the same games again while pushing Washington to let them keep their public subsidies, fat bonuses, and special low tax rates. So our Congress critters turn their legislative guns on avarice. Unfortunately, their aim was a bit off. Instead of popping the overprivileged, Congress hit the most unprivileged Americans, people on food stamps. Too many families are getting food stamps, they shrieked, driving the cost of this poverty program to record levels. Yoo-hoo, knuckleheads. Record numbers of our people are on food stamps today because, guess what? Record numbers of them are unemployed or underemployed and have been knocked all the way down into poverty. Yet, the Tea Party Republicans now ruling the U.S. House are demanding cuts of as much as $25 billion a year in food stamp benefits, which would prevent some 13 million Americans, half of them children, from receiving the program's groceries. Representative Michelle Bachmann rose in a biblical falsetto to rationalize this. If anyone will not work, neither should he eat. Hello, Michelle. That's not quite what Jesus said. Also, many of these people are working, but not paid enough to make ends meet, and many more are desperately seeking jobs that aren't there. This is Jim Hightower saying, in fairness, though, the GOP did vote to give these food stamp applicants something, drug tests. I don't recall that Jesus at the Sea of Galilee required anyone to pee in the cup before getting fishes and loaves. And if he had done so, he would have required the bankers to take the first cups.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. The Building and Construction Trades Department of the AFL-CIO says it commends President Obama's Climate Action Plan. The building trades unions say they stand ready to work with the Obama administration to achieve a sustainable national energy policy that ensures affordable and accessible energy, but which is balanced against the need for economic development. Building Trades supports the Keystone Pipeline, which Obama has said should be built if it doesn't significantly exacerbate carbon pollution. Not everyone is enjoying the tech boom in Silicon Valley. Jesse Russell reports.
As Silicon Valley continues to grow and drive up the cost of living in the Bay Area, not all workers are benefiting. Last Thursday, security officers descended on Googleplex in Santa Clara County to bring attention to the hundreds of workers who earn low pay, receive few benefits, have inconsistent hours, and little job security. The target was one of Google's security contractors, Security Industry Specialists. South Bay Labor Council Executive Officer Ben Field.
All we're asking for is that companies like SIS treat their workers fairly, that they give them enough hours to earn a decent wage, enough hours to get benefits, enough hours to get sick leave.
Glenn James is a security officer at Kaiser Permanente, and he's represented by the Service Employees International Union. He traveled to the Googleplex to show his support for the SIS employees.
With the union, we were able to secure a better contract with better pay, sick leave, vacation days. Without the union, it wouldn't have been possible because the company that we were dealing with would not budge. But the union fought, and we were able to achieve a better contract.
American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten says the message in a student achievement study in charter schools, no matter how it is framed, is that 20 years after the start of the charter school movement, students only now are performing at roughly the same level as public school students. The Center for Research on Education Outcomes at Stanford University released the study done on charter schools in 26 states and in New York City. Weingarten says while any gain is welcome, charter and public schools should not continue to be pitted against each other. She says charter schools should return to their original mission as innovative laboratories where good ideas at work can be scaled up to benefit all students.
The Workers Independent News is brought to you with support from the Bank of Labor, a division of Brotherhood Bank and Trust, member FDIC, equal opportunity lender. Bank of Labor is union-owned, union-represented, and the bank of choice for unions and their members. Now you can do business with a bank that shares labor values. More info online at bankoflabor.com.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Be a reader, tutor or mentor. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Take the pledge now at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are very excited to be speaking to our next guest, the amazing Dana Veriano Camisi. Hopefully, I am pronouncing that name correctly. Dana, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and yes, you nailed the name.
Awesome. Dana is the communication strategist for Breakthrough. They are a global human rights group using humor and satire to reach new audiences for common sense reform. I love this idea in general, Dana, and I love the new campaign, Deport the Statue. Can you tell us a little bit about Breakthrough and how you guys came up with this great idea?
Totally, yeah, thank you. So Breakthrough has been around for over 10 years now, and we're a nonprofit. We're based in the U.S. and in India. We have offices in New York and Delhi, and also places around the globe. We have many offices. And we are a human rights nonprofit, and we focus on using pop culture and media to change culture. And we try to get into people's homes. So we use video games, we make music videos, we make things like Deport the Statue, viral videos, or videos we hope that will go viral, rather. And we do all of this in a sort of non-traditional nonprofit way because we want to get into people's homes and have them experience media and have fun with media and learn about human rights issues in a new way that they can really, talk about it with their family and understand it through their own lens.
And you guys have had a great response to this latest campaign. Just in case it isn't clear to anybody, we're going to put the video, a link to it, and embed it with our blog post after the show. But Deport the Statue is essentially the Statue of Liberty experiencing the same problems in an immigration status that a normal person or a normal woman would experience, that she's being questioned as possibly taking away a job and having difficulty getting approved immigration status. You guys, what kind of response have you guys gotten to this?
Exactly. We've gotten an overwhelming response. It's been really exciting. I mean, most people realize that it's a spoof and we're not trying to trick anyone, but a lot of people still think we're being serious. So the backstory is that we've been working on this project for over a year now with the Yes Men as part of their project known as the Yes Lab, which runs out of the NYU Hemispheric Institute. And that's basically a one-year workshopping experience where you come with an idea and you work with activists and you work with students and you work with professors, anyone who really wants to donate a day or two a week. And you come up with a way to, they call it culture jamming. You come up with a way to create a spectacle that gets somebody to pay attention to the spectacle and then to the real issue. So that's where the Deport the Statue idea came from, was one of those meetings. Someone said, what if you deported everything immigrants have made in this country? And then from that led to the idea of what if you deported the statue, because she's an undocumented woman. And they're one of the they face specific hardships in this country, and not a lot of people are aware of it because of the crazy spin that the media puts on it often.
Yeah, it was delightful going through your Twitter feed. Everybody can check it out at LegalsPack, hashtag Deport the Statue, hashtag Take Liberty Back, and I'm guessing that you are Dana Mount Rush on Twitter as well. But the response and the confusion that some people seem to have as far as not maybe recognizing satire, there is some joy in that, and also just seeing that it's engaging people who probably wouldn't be involved in the conversation to begin with. On the serious side of it, what are your thoughts on the fact that Senate passed immigration this week, and on the bill and the process so far?
Yeah, so that was we were all watching it in our office on pins and needles, and we actually have an Instagram campaign going on now. If you follow at Breakthrough, we have our little Statue of Liberty that we're taking around the city and taking photos with her, watching things, doing things before, LegalsPack tries to deport her on the 4th of July. So she's trying to get her one last view of New York in. So we were watching it, and it was a mixed bag. It's certainly so exciting that it passed. We've been working on immigration for over 10 years at our organization, like I said, and we've been to the border, and our staff kind of lives this stuff. It's hard with the Corker Amendment in there. It's making it hard for a lot of us, and that's the amendment that sort of it's going to make the U.S.-Mexico border the second militarized border next to North and South Korea, and that's a pretty astonishing thing that they slipped in there at the very end. So that's hard for those of us who work with the border communities. But other than that, we're really glad that there is at least a pathway now for the 11 million people, 11 million families, students to actually start uniting families, start living the lives that they've been living, but taken away from the shadows and this unfair, inhumane treatment.
Absolutely. Just to remind everybody, we're speaking with Dana Veriano Camisi. She's the communication strategist for Breakthrough, a global human rights group using humor and satire to reach new audiences. One of my favorite expressions by a friend of ours, John Fugelsang, is if you don't, in telling jokes people don't want to hear, if you make them laugh or they will kill you. It may not be that extreme, but I think humor is often such a way to bridge the gap between people who disagree. And it seems like that's exactly what you guys are doing here. It really is an amazing campaign. You guys have also gotten a lot of media attention for this as well, right?
Yeah, it's been really exciting. We're a small nonprofit. There's only 10 of us in the New York office and 5 of us who did this campaign. So we got a call from CNN. They put us on the Situation Room with Jeannie Moose. And we're on some Spanish language TV yesterday in Univision, and it's just been great. And talking to you guys is very exciting.
We're not quite CNN, but we still do our best.
Yeah, just to be able to have a project with a budget of about $100. Take off and finally people take notice to this very important issue is just so exciting to us. It's just, the dream and what we've been working on over and over. You put out so many videos and you hope that one will have an impact like this. And
well, it definitely seems like this is having quite an impact. I know I checked it several days ago and it was well above 400,000 views of people who had seen this. How can people help get this word out, especially right now as this immigration debate may move to the House, and we need support more than ever to ensure that path to citizenship is there, and that maybe some of these, militarizing of our border type amendments get kicked out of the bill. How can people help what you guys do? How can they lend a hand to this great effort?
Totally. Well, I think it's silly to say, but I'm a media person, so sharing the video and sharing the humor always helps. And I think it's great to see the people who don't understand it, and the reason they don't understand it is because it's sick, but it's almost could be true. And that's the toxic environment around immigration right now. So I think spreading it out and continuing the conversation and YouTube commenters commenting at each other and having discussions is great. And doing that in as many places on the web and offline as you can. Further than that, if you go to our website, breakthrough.tv, we have a lot of focused actions you can take with a lot of our partner groups that work on the ground in immigrant communities that have specific things you can do. If you have 5 minutes, if you have 10 minutes, if you have a day. And I would really encourage you guys to check that out at breakthrough.tv. And, we have a breakdown of, they have excellent breakdowns of what actually is happening in the bill, what might happen in the House. So it's just really, stay informed. And even if it's not, Breakthrough comes at things from a human rights lens. So even if this isn't, an issue that you've lived personally, it's an issue that someone near to you has. And just keep talking about it because it's super important. It's a huge part of our country.
Absolutely. And can people donate to Breakthrough at breakthrough.tv to help you guys fight what you're doing and just, help you guys stay and produce more awesome videos?
Definitely. we love donations. We love donations via money or time, or come talk to us, and we love collaborating with everyone. So, but donations are always wanted. We're a grant-run organization, so our grants officer would be mighty pleased.
All right. Well, Dana, thank you very, very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Awesome work on the video. I know you wrote the script personally. I commend you. I love the use of humor. It's so important. Thank you for taking time with us today.
Thank you.
Dana Veriano Canisi of Breakthrough. You can check it out at breakthrough.tv. You can check out the video at deportthestatue.us. Follow them on Twitter at LegalsPack, at Dana Mount Rush. You can find it just by using the hashtag #DeportTheStatue or the hashtag #TakeLibertyBack. They are making it plenty accessible, and I think many of our listeners and friends love interjecting humor into this debate because it's much needed.
And John Fugelsang's quote, by the way, is, when telling them the truth, be sure and make them laugh. Otherwise, they'll kill you.
Me mess up a quote?
But you did. You got most of it out.
I got
but it's
close.
true. It's true. And it's a lot of, we have Lee Camp on a lot.
Yes.
In that, using that, heck, if you go to just Lee Camp's Facebook, he'll put a picture of a kitten and then put it like his really poignant political message saying the kitten's just there to get your attention.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing that they're doing there. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It really is. And the video, it's scary because this is what people are experiencing. It's not that far from what could happen to a real undocumented immigrant dealing with that, but it is so ridiculous that you have to laugh. So good on them. Great work. We're going to be back with more. We're going to talk more about immigration, and there's a few other big things in the news.
I think the court was... we've got through almost an hour here and hadn't said the word Supreme Court.
I know.
What is wrong with us?
You're listening to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, and we'll be back with more. Stick around.
I've seen the show. It's excellent.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
It's our last errand today, Jimmy. Just need to pick up some light bulbs.
Whoa, there's so many. Did Grandma tell you which ones to buy?
No, but check out the label on this package. It'll help us find the right bulbs.
Does it really matter?
Well, sure. The new light bulbs use a lot less energy, so we save money on our electric bill by using an energy-saving incandescent, CFL, or LED.
How about this bulb?
Let's see. We need to replace the 60-watt bulbs in our bedside lamps. That one is 800 lumens, so it should do the trick.
I've never heard of lumens.
Lumens tell us how bright the light is. The more lumens, the brighter the bulb.
You know, Grandpa, you're a pretty bright guy.
Yeah, you're pretty smart yourself, Jimmy.
Lumens, the new way to shop for light. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. That's EnergySavers.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Energy.
You may be hearing about people having trouble making mortgage payments and risking losing their homes. Many of them just aren't aware of the options that can prevent foreclosure. There are many options available to homeowners, such as repayment and forbearance plans, loan modifications, and even refinancing. Where does someone go for help? They should talk directly with their lender or a qualified HUD-approved counseling agency. Both can provide helpful information without charging a fee. According to PMI Mortgage Insurance Company, it's not a good idea to pay for services that you can get for free from a lender or a qualified nonprofit counseling agency. To learn more, visit homesafepmi.com or call HUD at 1-800-569-4287 for a counseling agency near you. That's 1-800-569-4287. This message is brought to you by PMI, supporting sustainable home ownership that strengthens communities.
Take Action News with David Schuster, Saturdays from 12 to 3 on We Act Radio, 1480 AM and weactradio.com.
Well, for me, it's always been, you report the facts. You report like hell, let the chips fall where they may. And the truth ultimately is what's going to sort of help our society and help all of us. I don't think progressives want a thumb on the scale on the facts. They just want the facts out there. You let the facts out, and progressives will tell you, we're going to win 70% of the time. You may quibble with the percentages or whatnot, but I think that's just sort of what progressives are looking for, and I think that's where this all sort of meshes with my interest as a journalist. And my interest as a journalist is report the facts, here's what's going on,
Here's what the facts say. Here's what history says. Here are the lessons we know we have learned. And let people draw their own conclusions. And I think what's so unfortunate right now in the world of broadcast media is I do think that a lot of conservative radio, certainly conservative television, they're not interested in facts. And that's ultimately where I think conservative media is going to have its downfalls, that Americans are hungry. They're just hungry for basic information, hungry for basic facts. You report like hell, you let the chips fall where they may. I think it's natural for all of us who care, who are passionate about politics, who feel like we have a sense about the difference between right and wrong. I think it's okay to let that be part of your coverage. It's important for all of us as broadcasters and journalists. In this day and age, we have to be authentic. You can't be the person who's up in the ivory tower that comes down and tells people, now you must eat your peas. No, it's all about, we all have personalities, and I think it's being aware sometimes of our own bias, but also being open to the idea that sometimes we're wrong, but we have a dialogue, and we have a passionate dialogue, and we care about this country, we care about this community, and I think that sort of passion is what carries us through.
Hear more from David Schuster, Saturdays from 12 to 3 on Take Action News, on We Act Radio, 1480 AM, and weactradio.com.
I don't wanna see your face around here. The time isn't right for you. I said the time isn't right.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Thanks, big thanks to Dana and everybody at Breakthrough. I think humor is really how we can break through this discussion, to steal their term, and get people talking about it.
Absolutely.
And we need to be talking about it because in addition to the Senate having interjected this Corker amendment and this border surge, as so many people are calling it, the House still has to take up the measure or create their own. And John Boehner is essentially threatening the House version of a filibuster, right?
Right. Well, okay.
The Hastert rule?
Well, the Hastert rule, we should probably explain what the Hastert rule is.
The Hastert rule essentially says that any bill that comes to the House floor must have a majority of support of the majority party.
Right. Now, it was Denny Hastert, Speaker of the House for a very long time.
Right.
Who had this rule, and it was a way to keep the Republican caucus together. Now, John Boehner has broken this a number of times and really ticked off the far-right Tea Partiers, specifically on things like the fiscal cliff. And they, I believe, and there's not official reports of this, but they have threatened his speakership, essentially saying, if you don't follow this rule, we're going to pull you out of there.
Well, and it seems like this is a recurring problem. I mean, as we approach this immigration issue, this problem of the Republican Party and therefore the whole Congress, the whole House being held hostage by these Tea Party members it seems like we just keep seeing this same movie play out.
Right. But I have a theory about all this. And a lot of people have talked about how the Republican Party has gone so extreme that they're going to go the way of the Whigs. And the way of the Whigs, of course, refers to the Whig Party back in the mid-1800s, becoming so obscure and getting such a bad name in politics that they essentially evaporated. Now, and this came up because I was researching something. Somebody asked if the Speaker of the House had ever been elected and not been a member of the majority party. And one would think that because it's the House members, they get together and they vote on who's going to be Speaker, that the party that has the most members will get the speakership.
That's
so
what
therefore
one would
the
think.
majority will always elect the Speaker. That's not true. There have been times, specifically during this Whig era or the end of the Whig era, where there wasn't a majority in the House.
Now, this was what, the 1850s?
I'm referring specifically to 1855 right now.
Okay.
I think I read this a while back. I'm trying to put this all together, but the thing is back then you had the Whigs and then eventually you sprouted up the Republican Party. But this didn't happen overnight. And, we learn it in, junior high school, wherever you've learned American history. And you think, okay, Whigs went away and then there were Republicans. But it really wasn't that way. There's this overlap time. And the Whigs didn't just evaporate into the atmosphere. These people who were members of the Whig Party went somewhere. Now, some of them became Democrats, very few. Some of them left politics. Think Olympia Snow, Arlen Specter. And some of them became Republicans. All right, because the Republican Party is what essentially replaced the Whigs in the two-party system. But during that time period, when the Whigs were going away and the Republicans hadn't yet become an official party with all the infrastructure, there was what was called the opposition party. They were just called themselves the opposition. They were people who didn't want to call themselves Whigs anymore, but didn't want to be Democrats because they hated the Democrats. So they wanted to run against the Democrats, and they were opposition. So, and there was the Know Nothing Party as well, I think, at that time. But what was happening is that you had all these elections going on, and no single party got a majority of the seats. So there was a coalition that was put together. A couple would get together. They could vote, and then therefore it'd be a coalition leadership. And those leaderships were really short-lived because coalitions are tough. They get cranky because you can't please everybody, especially when they're not even all in the same party.
Sounds a lot like the Tea Party and the Republicans.
But what I'm arguing is that I think that what's going to happen is the Republican Party is not going to go the way of the Whigs in terms of the name. I would argue right now we have that very same thing going on right now. It's just you have two parties we have three parties in the House. Two of them are conservative parties, and they're both calling themselves Republicans.
Right. You have like the Tea Party, which are essentially like this new party.
They're the new Republicans, I'm going to call them. I want to call them the new Republicans, the extreme right Republicans, the conservatives. They don't like to even call themselves a lot of times Republicans. The core conservatives, traditional conservatives, whatever. They're still going under the Republican Party because money is such even more a part of our system than ever. That to build a party structure is nearly impossible. But we really have two Republican parties, the old Republican Party, the new Republican Party, and John Boehner is the speaker elected by the coalition of those two parties. So the Republican Party isn't going to go away. It's going to slowly morph. Either you're going to have people leave, like some of the Whigs did. You'll have some of them go to the other party. There's been a number of people who've switched from Republican to Democrat. Or you will have old Republicans going to the new Republican Party. So the old Republican Party will go the way of the Whigs. It's just they're still going to be called Republicans.
Right.
And we are in that in-between stage with a coalition House, and that's why nothing's getting done. And why the Speaker is so incredibly weak right now.
That's why it's so difficult for John Boehner to pull anything together.
Sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's a lot like what was going on in the 1850s. It's just it's not as easy to track because there's not two different parties being named.
Right. And when people use that expression that the Republicans are going to go the way of the Whigs, we often think that the party as we know it, as the name Republican Party would disappear and it would become the Tea Party or the Conservative Party, what have you. But that infrastructure, that political infrastructure, the RNC, the
we will know that
is already there.
We'll officially know that it's switched over to the new Republican Party when Reince Priebus is gone, and then there's a far right conservative. Like I don't know who, but let's say Michelle Bachmann was elected RNC chair.
Yeah.
Then we will know that the Republican Party is officially. The old one's gone, and now we have the new Republican Party.
Right, but in the meantime, you have Boehner putting up roadblocks like this on immigration, saying that
he's not putting up a roadblock, though. He is trying to corral a coalition. And a good part of that coalition is saying, if you don't get this whole coalition's, or a majority of its, approval, you'd better not put it forward.
Because he doesn't want to have another failure.
It's not even a failure. Essentially, what they don't want a bill to go through that's going to be Democrats plus old Republicans.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a new coalition of half of a small portion of the old Republican Party going together with the Democrats, a bill that a majority of the Republicans, so-called Republicans, don't want actually passing.
Right.
So they're using the power of his leadership against him, saying you have a coalition, you make the whole coalition happy, otherwise you're out.
And it may be impossible to do, especially on something as touchy as immigration for the Republican Party.
Particularly.
It also poses, a very dangerous prospect for what could happen if to repair the Voting Rights Act, which was struck down this week by the Supreme Court.
I've heard by all accounts that John Boehner actually is, despite his political affiliation, is actually a nice guy. Has a good heart. Perhaps he'll say, screw you guys. And screw the Hastert rule. This is immigration. Vote me out. This is going to be my legacy.
I think he also knows that without some movement on immigration reform, the party's done anyway. Because
it's not. It's just going to speed up the move towards the new Republican Party.
Right, but then
in the
there's no way
meantime, it's going to destroy an excellent opportunity to have some real reform.
And it's going to destroy their own political opportunity to, run this nation because. Slowly but surely, it may not be this election, but minorities are making up a larger and larger percentage of the vote. And
you may find a new Republican Party that doesn't care about national office. It cares about the more because they are tenthers. They really only care about the local because they know they have much more control, and all they have to do is get enough people into the national to drain the federal government of its power, and therefore control it at the state level and local level.
And we all know, that they can achieve that through gerrymandering, which is only going to get a lot worse.
Right. Gerrymandering is leading to this coalition government, too.
Right. So. It's only going to get a lot worse after the Supreme Court's ruling on Voting Rights Act. We're going to get into that next and talk about all things Supreme Court when we come back. You're listening to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, and we will be back with more. Stick around.